Definitely. I think, certainly, I can say this from our experience, but solution providers want to help. They want to enable customers to get the best value out of the product that they're providing for them. You don't want a customer to use your product and just have a bad experience. You want them to love it and for it to be delivering real tangible value that makes them really happy. And sometimes that is most effectively achieved when there's clear collaboration and aligned objectives. When the organization can say, these are our objectives, this is what we need to improve on, this is the process we want to engage in. Whatever solution provider it is, if they're engaged effectively, and obviously they've got to have the right attitude as well, then they can really help steer that organization to saying, well, actually, I know you want to achieve that like this. We've got the opportunity to do it this way. How would that work? Because that would be a lot more efficient for you to do it that way using our technology than if you tried to do it the way you've suggested, for example. But it's again, aligned objectives, and we can kind of come on to it later, but this extended capacity that is all geared up around this overall objective, I think is can't be understated. But going back to the kind of the beginning, when you're procuring a service, so you kind of need to start at the end, don't you? You need to start with what is it we need to do, and I think a lot of, like you were talking about, the kind of commander's intent, and then the kind of different levels or layers within the organization where decisions are being made and responsibility is taken. I think in a lot of organizations, maybe there isn't that much clarity on exactly what needs to be achieved. And I think sometimes that's where you can end up with projects that are engaged on a kind of time and expenses basis, that are just some people doing some work, but there's not necessarily clarity on the objective. Whereas if a service is being procured under a statement of work, for example, it's exactly that, a statement of work that needs to be carried out. So one of the things that you mentioned to me the first time we talked was about this concept of kind of back engineering those outcomes. Do you want to expand on that a little bit, just in terms of maybe how organizations can use that thought process?
Yeah, sure. So it is about, again, that's coming from my experience in the past, is that what is what you want to achieve, right? So it's not even, you need to define and understand what the process is, but you need to bring it a little bit further. What is the ambition? What is the desired outcome of that process? And if you're talking about services, for instance, then it's like, what do you want those services to do and why? Right? So you need to have time to think. We're all falling into the default of getting it into a room and whiteboards, so we have ideas, so we have everything going, we have kickoff sessions or whatever. But it's probably best if someone with the authority and the mandate is start to think about, so what do you want to achieve with these services? And if that's not entirely clear, that by itself can be a requirement as well. So it might be that you're looking for a certain services in an area where you say, we need to have flexibility. We need to, we need them to tell us what is the best service they need to provide. So I think it's also about, crossing off certain things and flipping that around into a wish and ambition, into a requirement and specification. So it's not about having a massive document with all kinds of specifications being laid out, but you need to understand what you want to achieve. And if you don't, then you need to ask yourself, what are we doing here? So it needs to be in line, again, with your strategic vision or the intent or whatever you want to call it, but it needs to go backwards, saying services. We need certain services for what exactly? And then you backwards engineer towards what capabilities do you need. So the military forms there's a political debate. For instance, the NATO, there's a political debate, right? There's a situation, there's a war going on in Ukraine. It's on the east flank of the NATO airspace and NATO territory. We need to defend that territory. So that is the political decision. And then you'll have a intention, what needs to be done. And then all the way down, you get to the missions and the capabilities and the competencies and the skills to achieve that. So that trickles down. It's the same with this. If you have a understanding what you want to achieve and why, then you can backwards engineer what capabilities and capacity do I need? And that is based on people, because the people have a certain capabilities, but also a certain capacity. So you would need to understand what do you need from a capabilities and capacity perspective, to achieve that mission of yours, and then you can allocate people towards that to achieve that, as well as technology. So then you have your requirements, the resources, whether it's human resources or technical resources, to be allocated to that. So I think that is also an upside down world, if you will. I mean, we're all busy with our day job, and then we are, many people are involved in multiple projects, and that's why, because they have a job with a job description, which was written hopefully this year, but maybe last year when the world was totally different. But they have a certain role and responsibility, where certain capacity and capabilities are required, or certain competencies. But it doesn't say that role description, where you are selected and you are being put on that role, and now you're doing your day job, and all of a sudden the business needs something else to achieve, and then, oh, we're going to build a project. So the project involves, certain areas of the business. Oh, we need someone from IT, we need someone from finance, and we need somebody from procurement. Oh, Harold, can you achieve on this project? Right. So now I'm involved in a project which I see as a secondary task, because I have my primary task. Where I come from, nobody has a job to do. They are the representative. They can execute certain capabilities and capacity. And then based on the mission, they will be allocated to that. And then you will have your project or your day job. So now your mission, it becomes your purpose in life. That's what you do, because you have certain capabilities. And now you can allocate that, and form that team. Once that the mission is delivered, that dissolves, and then they go on to new missions. That is a concept in the business world which is on the rise, and it's called dynamic teaming. That concept of dynamic teaming is looking into what do we need to achieve, backwards engineer towards which skills, competencies, so which capabilities do we need? Do we have the capacity to deliver those capabilities? If the answer is no, then you get a third party in who can deliver those skill set and competencies, and you shape the team and you deliver the mission. That is a 180 degrees opposite of what we do in business. Everybody has a role and a job description. And the interesting part is, it's not only in the military. If you're looking at football, for instance, if there's a World Cup going to be obviously in the world, then we all find it completely normal that the national football team is presented based on players, coaches, people on the bench, even the medical staff. This is they are presented as being the selection of the national team with their mission to achieve the World Cup. And we think it's completely normal that, oh, these people are selected based on their skills and competencies and their capabilities. And they obviously are freed up from normal competition clubs to be allocated to the national team to have the mission to obtain the World Cup. So in sports and the military, we find it completely normal. But in business, it's like, this is your role and that's it. Oh, by the way, the world has changed. We have a project. Can you please attend this project and that project and that project as a side job? That's not setting up things for success.